All right, good evening, everyone. I'll call this meeting of the Helena Zoning Commission to order. It is, what day is it? January 10th at 6:01 p.m. And for the record, I do want to reflect that we have a quorum of 5 zoning commissioners present this evening. I believe the applicant is with us via Zoom. So we will go ahead and move forward through the agenda. First up, we have approval of our December 15th minutes. Are there any edits to the minutes? If not, I would take a motion.
I'll move to accept them.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of accepting the December 15th minutes, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Just let the record show that I abstained because I was not here. Thank you. Moving on down the agenda, we've got our regular agenda items. And first up, we have a public hearing. The way we typically run public hearings as the zoning commission is we will hear a report from city staff. We'll then allow time for the commission to ask questions of staff. We'll then invite the applicant or the applicant's representative up to add anything that they would wish the commission to consider. We'll open the hearing up to public comment. And then at the end, we'll have time for commission discussion as well as a motion and a vote. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Michael.
Thank you, Chair Harbridge. And screen is sharing now. Awesome. So our item tonight is 304 Clancy Street. This is consideration of granting a conditional use permit. And I am, as Chair Harbridge stated, Michael Alvarez, and I'm a planner with the Community Development Department. So tonight we're going to make a recommendation on a resolution granting a conditional use permit to allow a residence, multiple dwelling units, 3 or more units use in the R2 residential district. This property is generally located on the north side of Clancy, northeast of the intersection with Sparta Street. It is in an R2 residential zoning district. The applicant contends that the use on the property is currently multiple dwelling units residence and that the current total number of units is 4. The city doesn't have a record of the residents being split, and an inspection performed by the City of Helena Building Department concluded that the unit had not previously been split or had not been split correctly. The city does have 4 valid and existing addresses at this location. And so what we're hoping to do tonight is to have our files accurately reflect the use and activity on the property and have them operating under a conditional use permit as is required by the R2 zoning district. So a multiple dwelling units residence is building containing 3 or more dwelling units for occupancy by 3 or more groups living separately from each other, including condominiums. R1, R2 residential districts. It is the intent of these districts to provide for residential dwellings and limited non-residential development that protects and enhances the residential nature of the area. And urban, this is from the future land use in our growth policies, the 2019 growth policy. This category includes predominantly moderate to high density residential uses and may include public uses such as schools, churches, and open lands such as parks and occasional commercial uses that serve the immediate area or are relatively small and low intensity. This is the site plans submitted by the applicant. They're all on a single parcel here, and there's 2 units in each building according to the applicant. This is their architectural drawings for their submitted split. I believe they've gotten building approval for these, so this is just consideration of the use. And here is the original plat map where you can see sort of the lot lines just going up on the hill and sort of not matching what is feasible or plausible to build there. So in evaluation of the conditional use permit review criteria, the 2 standards that need to be met is that the proposed conditional use as conditioned will not adversely impact public health, safety, or general welfare, and that the proposed conditional use as condition will not adversely impact the peaceful use of existing property or improvements in the vicinity and the zoning district in which the subject property is located. To evaluate whether or not those standards are being met, item 11.3.4B, items 1 through 12 are the factors that need to be considered in that evaluation. So findings from the city is that the proposals contains no new structures or changes in the footprints of existing structures. The facility doesn't meet some of the current standards of the code for multiple dwelling units residences. However, the city is not recommending conditions beyond those required for the building permit. The city recognizes that a use of multiple dwelling units residence likely predates the current code requirements that would be triggered with a change of use here. This property doesn't have a sidewalk. The property is located near the Helena Trail system. There are adequate on-site parking spots. A multiple dwelling units residence would be required to have a landscape parking lot. However, with no new buildings and no proposed changes to the existing parking facility, the building permit will not trigger the need for this facility to be upgraded. And the city is not requesting the installation of any new facilities, pedestrian or otherwise, as a condition of granting the CUP. This was legally noticed in the Helena IR. Neighbor notices were mailed to adjacent property owners and a sign was placed on the premises. No public comments were received for this proposal. We got a couple of phone calls. Curiosity, they declined to offer any formal comments. And the recommendation is to recommend approval of a recommendation on a resolution. Slightly redundant, sorry. Of a recommendation on a resolution granting a conditional use permit to allow a residence multiple dwelling units, 3 or more units use in the R2 residential zoning district for property legally described as lots 8 through 16 in block 562 of the original Helena town site, Lewis and Clark County, Montana, with the following conditions: that a building permit must be submitted for within 1 year, and they've already submitted. And that all conditions must be met within 1 year of the CUP approval as per section 11.3.9 of Helena City Code.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to questions for staff, and I do have one for you. Just to clarify, I understand that the proposal does not involve new buildings or changes to the building footprints. If we grant the CUP to allow for multi-dwelling unit use on this property, does that remain the case? I mean, so say somebody else purchases the property and they have a CUP to allow for a multi-dwelling unit, could they then rebuild and construct a higher density, larger building if we don't condition it?
No, the intent would, so that would be considered like a significant change to the CUP, and they would need to come back before the board to amend the CUP.
Okay, so this is clear enough that it's
Yep.
for the buildings as they are. Okay, thank you. Are there other questions for staff?
I have a couple curiosity questions, I
Go ahead.
suppose. Do you know how you could end up with the 4 addresses if it wasn't actually split? What created the 4 addresses in the first place if they didn't go through that process?
I don't. Basically, we went back through the logs to try to figure out when it was split. And at some point, we have like the number, we have these old folios with just basically listing the number of addresses at, or number of names at each address. And at a certain point in time, they just started listing 4 names. And there's no corresponding building permits or paper trail.
Thank you. I was also wondering if you could remind me what type of building permit would typically trigger a sidewalk requirement?
Sure. So it's a new primary structure would require the installation of new sidewalks.
So right now in existing locations, even if they're doing work on their homes in places where there aren't sidewalks, even if there's like patchwork places where there are no sidewalks, even if they're doing work on their homes, they do not have to put in sidewalks. I just want some clarification on that.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, so if they're the only two times that the city regular or can really ask for them to install is at building permit to come up to code as a condition with a conditional use permit and through conditions of annexation. I don't think I'm forgetting anything.
I have a quick follow-up to that. So my recollection is that none of the houses on Clancy or on Sparta have a sidewalk there anyway, correct?
That is correct.
Are there other questions for staff? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Michael. I think we will move on and invite the applicant to speak if they would like. And just as a reminder for the record, if you would please introduce yourself and provide your address before you begin.
Sean, you can go ahead and talk.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Oh, great. Yeah, so I don't want to belabor this, but you know, this property is a historic location built in 1880. We purchased into it in 1982 when it was already 2 duplexes. We lived upstairs and our partner lived downstairs and the other 2 were occupied. So it's been continuously occupied in this configuration for at least 40 years, while I know of it. And from our estimation of changes that had happened before we purchased it, it had been several decades of knob and tube wiring before that had separated in the 2 units and 2 separate electrical services and so forth. So our 2 tenants moved out a year ago or almost 2 years ago, and significant damage had been done to the unit. So we needed to fix it. And as we fixed it, one thing led to another, and it got to be quite a project. So this is the last step before we can get back on road with renovating and keeping this place alive. And I hope in honoring the historic quality of it. That's really all I have to say.
Great. Thank you very much, Sean. You have a question?
Yeah.
If you'd be willing, we do have a question for you. Go ahead, Kim.
Sean, my name is Kim Wilson and I've, run and mountain biked by that property for 30 years. And I'm just curious, what is the history of that compound? Was that all kind of built at the same time with some specific intention, or are these just leftover buildings from early Helena that just happened to land there?
It's got a great history. I don't think we have time to go into it, but in a broad strokes, there was a family of stonemasons that helped build the Hale Reservoir in 1880. They built the stone buildings and the barns, and it ran for 70 years or so as basically a boarding house for stonemasons who built many of the houses around Helena. And also they ran chickens and dairy cow out of that little barn and supplies up to some of the mines in the area. So it was a going concern all those years with one owner. The Jesicks was the family that owned it originally.
Thanks. That's interesting. I appreciate that.
Any other questions? No. All right, seeing none. We'll open to public comment. there's no one in the room. Is there anyone online, April?
We do have 2 members of the public online. If you would like to speak, please raise your hand so I can allow you to unmute yourself.
All right, second call for public comment. If anyone online would like to comment, please go ahead and raise your hand. All right, not seeing any hands raised. We will close the public comment portion of this hearing and we'll open it to commission discussion. I guess I would just say for the record, I think looking at the CUP conditions, factors that stand out to me are the fact that this seems to be consistent. The character of this site is consistent with the character of the neighborhood. I don't see any major concerns with this continuing to exist as 4 units on the site. Are there any other comments or is there a motion?
I guess I have one.
Go ahead.
The only comment I would add to that is that the fact that there's no public comment against it, I think underscores that this is consistent with the neighborhood.
I'd also add that anything we can encourage to legalize these types of units, the better. I know I see as a landlord looking around at places to purchase, lots of ones that are not legal, that are quite dangerous. So anything we can do to get everything on the books and known by the city and legal and building permits, great, all for it.
Is there a motion?
Yes, I would move to recommend approval of a recommendation on a resolution granting a conditional use permit to allow residents, multiple dwelling units, 3 or more units for use in R2 residential zoning for property legally described as lots 8 through 16 in block 562 of the original Helena town site in Lewis and Clark County, Montana, with the conditions that 1, a building permit must be submitted within 1 year, and 2, all conditions must be met within 1 year of CUP approval as per section 1139 of the Helena City Code.
I'd second.
It has been moved and seconded. Although, I guess, is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. 5 in favor. Thank you very much, Sean, for being here. We appreciate your time. And thanks for coming in to get this taken care of with the city. That closes the public hearing for tonight, and I think we can move on. I know I saw on the agenda, we have director's report. Chris, you're up.
Thank you, Chair Harbridge and Commission. Oh, goodness gracious. Just a quick update. At our last meeting in December, staff was directed by the commission to provide some outreach to some of our cannabis licensees. We did that. Some 21 letters went out. We've gotten 1 comment. Well, actually, it wasn't even a comment. I guess it was a comment. Pepper Peterson, who is a industry or trade rep for the cannabis concerns, called us with some concerns regarding what we had proposed. Mike was able to speak with him. There was some misunderstanding, miscommunication about what we were actually trying to do. Mike alleviated some of his fears and concerns, but Pepper still would like to reach out to us and have a conversation. We have not had that because of the holidays. I think he was out sick. So that's the only comment that we've received. With that, not knowing what his direct concerns are, I think he has some issues regarding how we measure some distances between recreational uses and or license holders and daycares. So we're gonna go back and kind of revisit that and see if we can polish that up, make it a little bit more clear. Otherwise, we're going to present to you in February, if it's your choice for us to do that. Exactly what you've seen in December. We don't anticipate major changes. I think there was a request for us to go back and pull some additional examples. We've done that. We're prepared to present that in a report, as well as some questions that you all had for some glazing requirements. So we'll provide that to you in February, just at a regular meeting. I don't see a need to belabor this and put it in another work session unless you would like for us to. We're still on target to meet our was it June the 30th deadline to get something on the books before the state starts just issuing new recreational license holders, license permits. But unless it's your desire to have another work session, we don't see a need. We can just present it like we had in December.
February is on the 14th.
Yes, it will be February 14th.
Who's baking the Valentine's cookies?
Let's make sure that meeting's over by 7:30.
That's all I've got.
Thank you. Commissioner Sorensen, did you have a question?
Not a
Concern?
question. I did want to mention that maybe if we have other work session items we want to do, trying to get some stuff done before summer might be nice. But that doesn't mean we have to do it next month.
There were some outstanding items. I mean, we're happy to have a work session anytime you guys want to. I think there were some outstanding items to tee up that you guys have worked on in the past. We can definitely plan to have a work session and further discuss the cannabis section as well in February. That's all right. We can, I think there was signage, there's some dimensional standards we want to look at. Parking, I think, was another one. I don't have that whole
Wait.
long list of items you guys have been working on or would like to work
We
on.
did just agree no additional conversations regarding cannabis
Mhm.
in a work session, right? We're ready to go. Okay,
Okay.
so it was just the other items that you
That's right.
listed. Okay, great. Signage, definitely.
Yes. I think we could maybe wait until March and pick up the other items. Is that okay?
Is there a topic plan for, there is a work session on our calendar,
For
the 14th.
February.
Yes. But is there a topic plan for that work session?
So the work sessions are always going to be on your calendar.
Okay.
Just as a placeholder.
No problem.
Yeah,
No
so
problem.
if there's not one, I should have canceled the one for this month. I apologize for that.
No worries.
But if there isn't one, we'll go ahead and just
Yeah.
cancel that calendar invite.
Well, I wondered if, are we allowed to move the commission meeting up? And have a work session in March potentially?
How
You,
many,
you can tell me no. I just asked the question.
Michael, how many items are there for next month?
Like 4, probably.
There's, I think there's just one plus like,
Oh, two.
okay.
So if you want, we can start at like 5:30. Give
Lovely.
you guys some
Yeah.
time to get here.
We just need to make sure that we get those noticed. I don't think we've sent notices out yet, so.
I can change it on the public calendar and then we'll make sure the notices say 5:30.
I think it would suit the public better also, for the record. I'm not the only one with a
Yeah,
Valentine's
the-
reservation.
You all with your work sessions typically meet at 5 and then public hearings at 6. Planning board typically doesn't start until 6 p.m. Board of Adjustment starts at 5:30, so each one has its own starting time. So if you guys want to go at 5:30 next month, absolutely. If you want to go at 5:30 any month that you don't have a work session, we can totally do that as well.
I'm seeing nods for next month at 5:30, so let's do that for now.
And then I'm good with the work session in March. Yes. Yep.
Yes.
It is in your bylaws. I think you might want to take a quick roll call vote on it. Sure. They're- They don't have bylaws? My bad, different board.
I was like, I don't think I've seen those. That's a problem.
The only board that I manage that has bylaws is the Board of Adjustments. To my knowledge, I think planning board has its own charter, but yeah, the only one that has bylaws is the Board of Adjustment. So
Okay, so we can just nod. Yes. Okay.
I'm getting the general consensus is
Yes.
everyone is comfortable meeting at 5:30 when there's not a work session, correct? Okay.
Yes.
And then for the work session in March, I think if we're going to revisit signage, it would be nice if city staff could provide us with some info on what the zoning commission proposed previously on signage.
So what we can provide you with is what basically made it down to Thomas previously as the starting place, and then we'll just go through it like our zoning definitions.
Perfect. That sounds good. That was just before I joined, so I don't think anybody has memory of that.
I don't.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Anything else for the work session in March that we want to just get on the calendar?
Signage probably a pretty big bite. We can wait on the rest for
Okay.
April or
That sounds good.
something.
Okay.
I was just thinking if we can get through some of these before summer, we seem to have more items and also want to not be here all the time.
That sounds good. Okay, I think we have maybe spilled into member communications. Before we get there and further that conversation, I do want to just ask if there is any general public comment on zoning commission items. There, again, for the record, is nobody in the room. Is there anyone online?
The only two people we have online are one of our attorneys from the city attorney's office and the applicant.
All right, so I will take that as a no. There is no public comment tonight. And then we'll move down to member communications and proposals for our next agenda. We just covered that. Is there anything else from the commission on that? Okay. Meetings of interest and announcements. As we have just discussed, their next meeting is Tuesday, February 14th at 5:30. Are there any other announcements? All right. If not, that brings us to the end of the agenda and we are adjourned. Thank you all very much. Have a good night.
Thanks.